So luckily, everyone made me learn new things, and I love that. So thank you. And one thing that I wanted to explain was the part of my business name. When I found this definition, it spoke to me because my background is also in physical education, teaching, and so I'm into science. I like science. It works for me. I understand it. And dronography is the science, art, and practice of creating durable images or video by recording light or other electromagnetic radiation by means of a drone flying around or above a certain scene. The way I interpreted this was I'm able to take beautiful pictures and collect data at the same time, and then utilize that data for creating 2D or 3D models of homes or businesses so that engineers are able to recreate that business right then and there, put solar panels on there, test it through a year of weather, see if they have the correct placements, and it's really interesting. Get into the agenda real quick. Of course, thank you so very much to the Historical Society for inviting me. I do appreciate it. Love to discuss drones. I can get down every rabbit hole known to man. So I'm going to try and keep it kind of high level. By all means, if you have questions, feel free to tackle me afterwards. And like I mentioned, born and raised here in the city, and then did Canisius for my education. And in the early 90s, I had to leave the area to go teach. So went down to Texas. I know. But I did, and it was big, and it's huge. It really is. So went down there and I taught physical education, special education, and the icing on the cake was the driver's education. I lived, so I mean, most of the kids I got in with, I'm like, I'm not dying with you today. So just let's get through this and work together. Then I went up to Alaska. Luann, my sister's up there with her brother, my brother-in-law, her husband, having little ones. So I went up and helped with the little guys, who are not little anymore, but went up there and I became a public servant for the state of Alaska. We won't discuss the governor at the time. I went through a few, but there was one. And yeah, she was interesting. And then I did some high-level administrative officer joy and Department of Law, Department of Health and Social Services, Division of Public Health. Fun times, just budgets and grants and HR and you name it. It's kind of like teaching in a way, because you got all the kids doing HR and, finance, everything. Then came down to Vancouver, Washington after the boys were old enough and, I was done with Alaska. And then I said, okay, that's it, driving back across the continent one more time. Came back home. So, flipping through the internet one day, all of a sudden, the drone thing came about. And I don't know what it was about it, but it bit me. And life has not been the same since. So one thing that I joined is called Women in Drones, and they also have men, many men, mind you, who love the Women in Drones format. And they offer different kinds of trainings through different schools, and I went ahead and was able to be part of the first female drone pilot team that went into Disaster City, Texas, and flew for what was called the Interop 22, which was testing the communications. When there's a disaster, all the communications go down, and then they need to bring those with the trucks in and the satellite dishes and all that good stuff. So we had all those things there. We had every alphabet government agency, everyone was there. FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, we were all playing with the communications. AT&T didn't really do too well. T-Mobile did pretty good. It varied on who had what at the time. So it was very interesting to find that out. But then we also found out, because most of us went down there not realizing what we were getting into, that we were the only drone pilots collecting the data for the first responders to act on. So we would go out and do a quick mapping mission in the 100+ degree heat, mind you. Oh, and the poor drones weren't happy either. I'm telling you, the drones were like, it's a little warm. I'm like, I know, dear. Put you in the air, you know, just cool down a little and then we'll go launch, you know. But it was very interesting to be a part of that and learn from Dr. Robin Murphy, who has used drones since, believe it or not, since 9/11. She and her team, Crazar, who are part of this program down at University of Texas. No, it's Texas A&M. I'm so sorry. They get snarky about that down there when you did the wrong college. There's horns at one, I don't know. But yeah, it's, she gets, you know, amazing lady who led 9/11 response, the volcanic disaster in Hawaii, the Miami building collapse, had a major drone response, and they kept, every time there was a clearing, they would do another mission multiple times a day, and there were many female pilots who were part of that unfortunate disaster. And then luckily I was able to also attend the Commercial UAV Expo. UAV is Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, which is also a drone. So that's where that comes in, and they're reterming it to uncrewed to bring in the ladies. So not defining it as unmanned much anymore, but that's still the technical definition. These are some of the drones I was able to see at the UAV Expo. The one up top left we cannot afford. It's more than a house. About $120,000, I think it was. Yeah, we don't want to write a check for that one. The cute one was the dog on the bottom right. I like Spot. He was cool. So the one here in the center is actually utilized in Canada to deliver blood out to remote areas. So it looks like a little helicopter, but because they need to, you know, make sure that everything inside is not being exposed to the elements too much. And then there's a couple other drones up there, fixed wings and multi-rotors, and really fun things to see there. So we did mention it is Women's History Month and Women in Aviation Week. Here's some amazing ladies. Of course, everyone knows Miss Earhart. Not many know Miss Bessie Coleman, who is an amazing woman born on a dirt floor in Texas. Made it to Chicago, was in a barber shop, I believe, and heard about female pilots in Europe and said, I'm going to go do that. And she was laughed at, of course, but she got over there. She went over to France, got trained. She was the first international pilot license and first black female. So amazing woman. Her goal was to open schools to teach black pilots. She was just before the Tuskegee Airmen. So they went off of her model for schooling, and one of her partners ended up opening her school. So she did die falling out of a plane. Not a good way to go. But, you know, her dream was realized after her unfortunate death. Then we have current active Major General Jeannie Leavitt, who was one of the first 8 jet pilot females in the U.S. military, and she was technically the first Air Force pilot, and she also commanded a fighter wing. So she's in the Air Force, she's still serving, so she is an absolute role model for sure. Now, believe it or not, drones started way back in 1783. I had no earthly idea. Again, the term unmanned aerial vehicle, hey guys, is a drone. And the first one was the hot air balloon. That's our first unmanned aerial vehicle. And of course, shortly after that, they went ahead and put a bomb on it. You know, you got to test it with military might and see what comes of it. So that's what happens. First aerial photograph, 1858. It is not in existence, unfortunately. I cannot show it to you. I did look, I promise, but it was destroyed. The first camera on a UAV, it was on a rocket, 1896. And then, of course, our first radio-controlled boat from our favorite local famous Tesla. He had a part to do with drones. Isn't that so cool? The first boat. And when he did the boat, I guess he was testing the radio frequencies. That was his goal, to make the radio frequencies work. And he did. And no one believed that he was actually operating the boat. They thought it was magic, a trick. You know, they were not happy about it. So, but there he is. He was part of the, I was amazed. I was like, no way, I got to add him in. All right, so our first quadcopter happened in 1907, and now it's getting a little more current where you recognize Predator drone. Enter the fear of drones. Bingo, here it is. This is what everyone's massive fear is, and rightfully so. The way the United States use them, it's not very helpful. The first time they used it in Afghanistan, they mistaken a poor man for bin Laden, and they killed him. So I mean, it's a fear that I think everyone gets from that area, and for some reason in our psyche, it's here, because when people see drones, I get very different reactions from very, you never know what you're going to get, basically, with being out there on your own. And sometimes I look around first before I launch, and people will sneak up on me. I'm like, how'd you do that? They just come out of nowhere. So it is kind of tricky, but you don't know what you're going to get, and I try to be very educational about it when I do have questions. So by all means, if you see me, feel free to come on over and have some discussions. Not a problem at all. So now we're into the more current knowledge of drones. So we've got our first CIA kill, unfortunately, 2002. So it is still kind of fresh. 2006, the United States allowed, for the first time, drones in the U.S. airspace. Drones operate in airspace, the national airspace. So when there's a drone in the air, it is functioning in either controlled or uncontrolled airspace. So there's a need, if the grandkids get a drone, they can't launch it anywhere they want. Don't do that. Don't go to the falls and go, let's do it. No. Not the falls. Don't go to the falls and launch a drone. You're going to have big problems. You're going to have police that you never knew existed coming out of the woodwork and meeting you. It's not fun. So there's certain areas that you're not allowed to fly drones in. Over people is a no-no, even if they're in vehicles, because the drone falling out of the sky is not a good thing. So the liability insurance is a fun part of being a drone service provider as well. 2014 is when the global commercial drone industry took hold. People got really interested in them, and I'll show you a picture of the one that I think everyone is familiar with. So the FAA is who is in charge of the national airspace. We have to adhere to their laws, their rules, their policies, their everything. There are two ways that you launch a drone. You're either launching it recreationally, which you're doing it for fun. You're not going out and making money, monetizing in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And you go ahead and do like a 30-minute course, and it gives you some top-level things not to do, like not fly over 400 feet. Don't fly over people. Just it goes over these basic things that you need to know when you have a drone. If you get more into it, and if you want to make money, if you want to monetize with a drone, like I do solar panel surveys, I get paid for those. So I'm monetizing. I'm not operating I'm not operating recreationally anymore. So I'm in a commercial zone. So I had to go through the schooling, which you can do online. any way, shape, form, or fashion, I chose as an educator to go to a school, to be a little more accredited than just to say I did it on YouTube, which is totally optional. I mean, it's totally optional to do at this point. There's no rule saying you must pay this for this. The main reason I chose it, again, I'm an educator, so I did that, but I'm able to go back into this course at any time with any updates, any rules. Like we have remote ID coming, which is a big thing for drones. It's like a license plate for a drone. That's coming into place soon. So when FAA changes certain things, they update the courses for me. I go in, know what's going on, so I'm able to function professionally out in the field. The FAA test that you take after you do your courses, your schooling, is not offered in Buffalo. You drive to Rochester. There's a center there, an FAA testing center, and you pay to take the test. If you fail it, you go back and you pay again. But that happens. But after the school I went through, I felt confident enough and everything else, so it was great. They do provide, the FAA does do a background check on all the drone pilots, remote pilots. That is part of the process to get a commercial drone license, so that when somebody actually has that certification, they've had a background check through the TSA. So many people ask that. It's like, who are you? What are you doing? You're spying on me, No, I'm going to go through it with you, no worries, but just so you're aware. And we do have to adhere to all FAA, state, local, and county, and some city regulations. So we have to adhere to everything. We have to know what we're doing before we launch. Otherwise, bad things happen. This is hard to see. It's an aeronautical sectional chart. Those of you that are pilots, you already have seen this. This is DFW. I know you cannot tell that from this, but yeah, the screen looks really bad. But this is an example of one difference between recreational and a commercial pilot. Commercial pilot needs to know how to read the sectional chart and function. So this is the drone that made all the difference in the world, literally, made by the company DJI. They are the global manufacturer leader of drones. Commercial, agricultural, you name it, they have a drone for it. This model here is called the Phantom. So this is the game changer. This is what everybody went hog wild for. And this one changed the gamut for the drone industry. There's different pathways. I know this is hard to read. Some of the examples here are the photography, obviously. Then you've got search and rescue. You've got delivery. We're going to go over delivery here in a minute. You've got inspections, energy inspections. You've got just a plethora of different pathways that are available out there for the commercial drones. And let's see what the future holds. Right now, under the ocean, snake robots taking care of the oil pipelines for us. They live down there on the seabed. Come out when they're needed, fix things, go back, get charged up, do their thing. Isn't that fun? I don't know what I would do if I would ever see one, but yeah. There's also operating already in Africa and in parts of the US. Zipline is the name of it, and it's a medical delivery service. So blood tests, different things like that that need to be delivered in remote areas. They launch these things, and then they'll do like a little parachute drop, which is very similar to what the delivery is going to be here shortly. We also have, there it is, drone up in Walmart. Everyone thought Amazon was going to be first. Amazon gave up. FAA is too much for them. So Walmart is taking it on. They're already operating in Arkansas, Texas, Virginia. There's another couple there that they're working in. Utah, there it is. So you're gonna start seeing it. They're flying the drones, and then they have like a drop zip. They pull it back up, So it's a box attached to a line that they drop off, and then they come back up, and then the drone comes back. Right now, drones cannot operate beyond visual line of sight. What that means is the pilot must always be able to see the drone. How do they get the drone that far? They have what's called visual observers along the way to make sure the drone keeps going on the course it's supposed to, because it's automated, it's set. And then it stops, it drops it, and it comes back, and the visual observers go check, 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 and then it comes back. So it's starting. It's going to be coming. It's very interesting. Drone light shows. Some of them have been already replacing fireworks because of out west we have the fire issues. They will not do fireworks because of those problems, so they'll do a drone light show instead. And they're pretty cool. If you haven't seen one yet, oh, there's some really cool ones. Like the Olympics had them. I mean, they're really neat. So don't even get me going. Here's the really cool part of the future. Already operating in Australia. Electric vertical takeoff and landing. eVTOL. It's a flying drone that you get in. I know, it's a flying car. It is. It's like that. It's a flying car. And they have racing. Oh, I know, it's expensive. Yeah, they have racers that do it. I get to meet one of them next week. So I'm going to like maul this poor girl. Gosh, I feel so sorry for her already. She has no idea. Here's the Miami building collapse. I know it's so awful. Up here is what's called an orthomosaic image. What that means is they had multiple drones take hundreds and hundreds of photos, and then they laid them out, almost like when they put the Titanic together is the only way I can think to describe it. And then they would see what level they were on and then where they had to go and that kind of a thing. And then what was created was a 3D model out of a lot of those images that are taken.